That he is a power forward who can handle the ball and in any situation. He can bring it up the court. He can penetrate the lane. And he's a talented passer. You don't see many guys who are 6'8", 235, 240 who can break down a defense and pass it off to a guy on the wing.
What's up, Wildcat fans? Koa Peat took a visit down to Tucson, and I've got Javier Morales with all the insight you need to talk about the latest in Wildcats recruiting today. Javier, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, of course. Now, you were in the building when Tucson High took on Perry and Koa Peat. Just starting there, tell me what the environment was like. What was the pregame atmosphere like in the building?
Oh, it was electric. It was packed. I'm sure you saw video of the stands. There was no empty seats really. Tucson High's gym makes it so you can have arena seating where it's totally around the court, including the baselines. So it's kind of unique that way among high school gyms. So it had even with that, it even seemed like there was more fans than what they really were, because they were enveloping the court there. So it was loud. What interested me is that it was very much pro Tucson High. I was wondering if people would be there just to cheer for Koa Peat, and they did, but it was decided Tucson High home court advantage. It was just an electric feel. It was interesting. Even some of the students of Tucson High were yelling overrated at Koa Peat. It was a fun atmosphere. I experienced that when Mike Bibby came to Tucson when he was a senior at Shadow Mountain and he played South Point in a regular season game. I was there for that game, and it reminded me a lot about that packed gym. Just the hoopla all around it. Mike Bibby coming to town. It's had very much the same feel to it, and they both wore number 10, which is interesting. Oh, there was a lot of Arizona sweaters and Arizona shirts, and a lot of U of A fans there. When he was introduced, there was a applause, probably the loudest applause he had all game, and some U of A chants toward the end when he was running out into the court. And then there was another time when there's a U of A chant toward the end of the game when he was coming off the court too. So definitely a lot of U of A fans. I'm sure you're going to get to this, but there was a Houston assistant there, Casey Beard. He stood right next to the bench so he can be seen. He didn't move from where he was at. He stood the whole game. He was the only assistant there among the top 5, because all the other teams, as I pointed out in the story, all the other schools were busy, were tied up. Arizona was playing that night. Arkansas and ASU were getting ready for their game yesterday, and you're taping this on Thursday, so they played yet Wednesday. And there was a lot of things that for other coaching staffs to do. They would be there if they were available, but they've probably seen Koa Peat so many times, and Koa Peat knows they want him. He's taking official visits to all those schools. He can go to ASU whenever he wants to. His brother's an offensive lineman there. So, but Houston made it known that they were there and very interested in Koa Peat.
Yeah, now let's talk about the on-court performance, Javier. What did you notice? What stood out most about Koa Peat on the basketball floor?
That he is a power forward who can handle the ball and in any situation. He can bring it up the court. He can penetrate the lane, and he's a talented passer. You don't see many guys who are 6'8", 235, 240 who can break down a defense and pass it off to a guy on the wing for a layup or a jumper. He's got that in him. Like Coach Dwayne, Sam Dwayne Jr., the coach of Perry, said he can guard any position, and he did. He was out on top guarding some of the Tucson High's guards. He was down below defending the basket. He can play any position, and coaches love that because they can mix and match, and they can use him in different situations. He's everything is advertised. He didn't have the greatest game because he was in foul trouble throughout. He had 4 fouls at the end of the third quarter already. So he was kind of limited. And you could tell the frustration on his face because he's so used to playing in big time games, and refs will probably let him play a little bit more. Like Coach Dwayne said, he didn't get a chance to play like he would in college because they were calling it pretty tight. But despite that, he still had 22 points and 16 rebounds. And and like 4 or 5 assists. So he, in a game where he was frustrated, he was clearly the best player on the court. He fills everything that a coach would need, and he would be perfect in Tommy Lloyd's system because he can run that transition game, and he can play defense in the half court. And he's a good half court offensive player. Like I said earlier, he can break down defenses off the dribble as a 6'8" player. That's so huge in against zone defenses and so forth, which Arizona's historically had trouble against. If you have a guy like that who's big, who's hard to handle, and can do that'll open up things for shooters and not make the zone defenses as tough to go against.
Yeah, and you spoke to the foul trouble that Pete experienced in the third quarter there. You said that you could see the frustration on his face, right? Can you speak to the mentality that Koa Peat plays with, what you noticed about his mannerisms in person, the emotions he plays with? What kind of player is Koa Peat when it comes to that?
You can't tell if they were winning by 30 or if they were down by 10. He's got that same kind of facial expression throughout the game. Very, very determined. Doesn't really show too much emotion either way, really. I mean, even though he was frustrated, he didn't get adamant about a foul. He just took it in stride, kind of like had an upset look on his face. But yeah, I mean, he moved forward. He moved on. He went to the bench, and he handled it well. He was cheering on his teammates. So he's pretty businesslike. I would say that's a good term to describe the way he plays. He's businesslike. He goes there and he takes care of his business. And I think he gets that from his family, his athletic family, growing up around all his siblings who played, college, some pro, especially in football. And his dad was an NFL player. I think he gets those mannerisms from being in that family where it's strictly business, and he's there to play a game and to win. That's the way he handled it.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me of my next question. Let's talk a little bit about what his coach had to say after, because Koa Peat did not speak to the media. His coach did speak for him after the game, and his coach who has coached how many versions of a Pete basketball player through that school. He's coached all of Koa Peat's siblings at one point. What did he have to say? What were some of your takeaways from everything that the coach had to say after the game?
What do you think makes him a special player?
His unselfishness, his willingness to win, his to make the right play. Now tonight he didn't get a lot of help. I don't think they let him be really physical tonight. They didn't let him play like he will in college. But he's just makes simple plays. He stayed composed through all that. If you saw that, some of those things, and he makes right plays, and he's a winner. And I truly can say that he's a tremendous teammate. I love coaching him, and our players love playing with him.
That he was truly enamored by Koa Peat, the way he is as far as a teammate and a player that he can coach. If a 5-star guy might think he knows it all, and this is a high school coach. I can be playing for Calipari next, or Tommy Lloyd, or what have you, Bobby Hurley, Sampson. But he treats his coaching staff there at Perry like they're his coaches. That he respects them, and I think that was one thing that stuck out about what Coach Dwayne said about him. The way he's coachable, he's relatable to his teammates. He doesn't think he's better than everybody else because he's a 5-star future NBA player. He handles it with class, and he's very respectful. Now, you mentioned he didn't talk after the game, which is disappointing. That was the only disappointing part of the evening. But it seemed like he's a coach's dream, Koa Peat is. And he would be somebody that the community would warm up to in a big way.
Yeah, I know. I'm for one excited to see the possibility of Koa Peat donning the Arizona jersey in McHale. I know a lot of people are. Thank you for joining us, Javier. Where can everyone find the great work that you do?
allsportstucson.com, and my Twitter handle is Javier J. Morales.
Well, I appreciate you so much, Javier, and you do great work. So everyone, make sure you do check out Javier's work at All Sports and on his Twitter as well. And Javier, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the AZ Wildcats podcast.